welcome back to Hey Eintracht Frankfurt, the Bundesliga podcast covering everything there's to know in the English language about Eintracht Frankfurt. We're not really even the greatest club anywhere at the moment. We're not going to take this podcast in a negative direction today, I promise. There's some positive stuff coming up at the end. I'm Chris, coming at you live on video, on recording, from the middle of Michigan. The two other beautiful gentlemen you see on the screen, one also here in the mitten where it was 80 degrees today. The trees are changing colors. The Lions are winning. Michigan's losing. Michigan State's winning. Everything's great in Michigan right now, Garrett, isn't it? How are your Chippewas doing?
Blew a giant-ass lead and lost at Eastern Michigan on Saturday. But you know what? This isn't
your factory. At the factory.
This isn't your parents' Eastern Michigan University football team that didn't win games multiple times during the years. They are a legit organization and maybe top 3-4 in terms of college
football.
We've
literally lost everybody already.
Yeah. Also, Red Wing. You forgot to say Red means.
You know what? We'll get it back on the soccer realm. Detroit City FC clinches a home playoff match, first time in history. Fantastic situation here in the state of Michigan and in the sport we love and the sport we're here to talk about. I know that means as much to you as it means to me. I am going to be in Europe during the playoffs, and that is bullshit. I might have to cancel my trip.
I could always use a guest contributor for a recap. So if you're back in, let me know, and I'll pop the word in.
John, how you doing over there in Delaware?
Pretty good. This past weekend I was down at homecoming for William & Mary, so had a pretty nice alcohol-filled weekend. Definitely need to recover now.
It's a beautiful campus down there, too.
Yeah, it is nice. Always love going back there.
Congratulations to your Jaguars also on their second win of the year, and Evan Ingram playing 2 games in a row. Good for my fantasy team.
Well, you know what? The Pats are not exactly the greatest team this year, so we'll take it. I'll take the victory, but the next few games don't look so good. So,
yeah. Hey guys, I got to give a shout out. We had 3 responses to our call for donations to help people in hurricane relief. Sent out a few autographs. Couple off the top of my head, trying to remember. Couple Kevin Traps, 1 Marmouche. Oh, we got a 4th one. We sent out a Mario Götze signature as well. Fantastic to have people donate. We would love to have more. We're going to keep that going. If at any point you want to donate to hurricane relief down in the Carolinas or Florida that's been hit real hard, just tell us you donated. Send me a screenshot or something. I trust the honesty of our listeners, and we want to send out some autographs to thank you for helping fellow Americans here in need. Ways you can get in contact with the show, hefpod.com, hefpod.com. I got a new update there I'm going to try to put out before this even hits the air, so I'll probably mess it up. But certainly by this weekend we'll have something up. And then on X, formerly Twitter, at HEFpod, we'll be back live on there with game updates this weekend. It was a little bit tough last week. There's a lot going on, guys, in the Eintracht world. It was a rough weekend. I think there's some silver lining ahead of us, but it was a really rough weekend. We're just going to start it in a I'm sorry, I got my Monday Night Football in the background. Totally distracting me. Let me turn that off. So Eintracht Frankfurt Frauen, weekend matchup against Werder Bremen. And this is one, guys, that we didn't talk much about because kind of thought it was going to be a walk in the park. I thought it was going to be a walk in the park. I had the game time wrong down in my phone, and I woke up as it was ending. So that's on me. Credit to Dawson for actually broadcasting it. But guys, after the high of the last week and everyone being excited about finishing last week, top of the table, they come out and drop a 1-0 draw to Werder Bremen. Very uninspired play. I don't even know where to go with this one. We talked about a team that had grown up and learned a lot and all this. This is not what we're supposed to be doing at this point, guys. Someone walk me off the ledge.
I think I was going to say real quick, I think it is we're used to Launish Diva, Moody Diva from the men often. And I think, John, you and I were talking, like, we didn't think, like, yeah, Bremen are good, but you're at home, you're top of the league, you're riding a high, especially after how you played last on Monday against Freiburg. Producer Nathan was there in attendance, and you dropped 3 at home
to a side who hadn't won away at all this year. So
yes,
not a great sign. I mean, I don't think the game was a bad one. We had some pretty good chances. I mean, Yomi was streaking down with the ball in like the 32nd minute. Had Freigang, passed it to Freigang in front of the net. Probably should have passed it to Reutler, who was coming in behind, completely unmarked. Probably would have been a wide open net, 1-0. But it's hard to deny her passing it to Freigang with the form she's been on. And if she had been able to get a foot on that, she had the near post wide open. And then Yomi had another chance, free it in the box, tries to place it over the goalie, hits the bar. Just rude chances in that game. We had the better chances, and their goal was an absolute cracker. Just kind of caught Johannes a little bit off her line, and I mean, perfectly placed pass as well by Mahmoud over to Vidal.
Yeah, it's frustrating from the sense that in matchups against higher teams like Wolfsburg, not only do we have a good amount of chances, we convert as many as could reasonably be expected, and the quality of the finishes was so outstanding. And then in this one, only 4 shots on target against a side that we outmatch, exponentially. It just really was kind of one of those things that I thought we were beyond. We'll talk a little bit about what else happened around the league, but I can't help the women are off next week. They'll be back on November 4th against Bayern on the road. I can't help but think about how we're supposed to be banking these points so that we don't have to rely on victories against Bayern, who came back and took care of business, I think, in their matchup. But just a situation where, it was nice for a week while it lasted, but now we're sitting back in second. Wolfsburg won, so they're tied with us now with 16 points. It's going to be tight the rest of the way. There is no question about, we weren't going to pull away in the lead. Nobody really expected that. But I thought maybe for a week or so we could hold on. Cause for concern or just a blip on the radar, guys? 7 matches and we got 5 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. I'm not upset about that.
I'll put an optimistic sign. You look at, I got the table right ahead of me. We have the best defensive record in Frauen Bundesliga right now with 4 goals allowed. We're the only ones allowing less than a goal a game. So, and also lead the league in goals scored with 22. Granted, we scored a shit ton of them, almost a third of them on Monday against Freiburg. But when you see Bayern losing the weekend before to Wolfsburg, it's what we've done. Maybe there's a little bit of parity. Maybe this is a good wake-up call ahead of that. And hopefully we, punch up, I would say re-punch up, regenerate come November 4th. Because, if anything, we're at a point where I know it was talked about in the group. We have a lot of people on international duty, but so does Bayern. We have the added advantage, though, of not as many competitions right now. So if they're probably pissed off, the ladies and Nico are probably the most pissed off out of all of us. So channel that energy, drive southward. Chris, the highways down there and the names of the specific highways better than I do, or the railway lines. Go in the Bayern, take a point, hopefully take 3, regroup, and it's not the end of the world right now.
I think too with Bremen, they were definitely not performing, I think, as well as the team that they have, and they made a few changes this game, and they defended pretty well overall. I think it was a really, really important game for them to try to get back on track. They've obviously faced, I think, nearly the entire top half of the league from last year so far. So I think they had a little bit extra motivation for this one. I think that we got a little bit too high on ourselves and, didn't really settle down a lot in that game. still think we were the better side, and I'm not too concerned going forward with this side.
Yeah, I attribute it a little more as a blip on the radar instead of something to really be concerned about. You know, a loss like this was going to happen along the way. Fortunately, it happens in the first third of the season. You know, we can make points up. If there's a win at Bayern after the break, then, you know, we're right back on track again. Leverkusen tried to help us out, which would have been nice. Not enough there on their end. But, you know, by the way, Garrett, that's the A3 to the A9 would be your route from, you know, just in case you feel like getting in a car next week and driving out. Hey, I'm gonna be over there. Maybe I'll head down to Munich for that one. It's a good one. But no, you know, it's this one's a little more difficult for me because they have to sit on it for 2 weeks before they get back out there. And I think that eats away, especially the players that aren't going on international duty, the ones sitting back at home and training or resting. Even worse, they got to sit there on their couch and think about it. So hopefully, you know, part of that maturity and experience is moving on from it and bearing it, putting it in the back of the mind where they don't have to think about it again. And that's what we're going to do with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Damn right.
Yep.
So let's talk about another disappointment on the weekend, and that's Bayer Leverkusen 2, Eintracht Frankfurt men 1. Guys, this one was weird from the start. John, you were hungover watching this one. Probably didn't feel too great. But
yeah, I only was able to watch the first half live. Then I had to rewatch the second half later.
I woke up at 10.
All right, let's talk about the shape a little bit. On the back line in Kuku, Tiats, Koch, and Christensen. Shouldn't do this from memory. I should look at the notes. Götze, Larsen, Tuta, Bimbe, Marmouche, and Ekitike up front. Just weird stuff from the start. Again, another penalty called in the box in the first 10 minutes. Guys, I get it. Contact on the backside of the leg is going to get called every single time. This went to review, and I still didn't see the contact there. There probably was, but guys just fall on contact. And for the amount of time it takes to look at it, it shocked me that he did not reverse that.
I think for me, what I saw the highlight, because I saw the close-up, it was like a loose ball. And the Bayer Leverkusen attacker was back in the box, unfortunately, and it was right place at the wrong time, right place for him, wrong time for us, and you know, it made contact. Thankfully, Victor Boniface struggled to take penalties because I don't know, that was a Laura Freigang last year type penalty. Sorry, Laura, but get that one.
Not getting her back on the show now after that.
Sorry.
No, that was a real ball don't lie kind of moment, though. I mean, that Adley he sees Abimbe winding up to pass the ball out of the box, and he just sticks his foot out in front. Very, very slightest contact, if any, and just, that's annoying. And, I mean, yeah, just glad that.
And, you know, I'm not going to dwell on that because Kevin Trapp came through and made the save, and you know, as we talk about penalties as this goes on, they put up the stats before every penalty about where these guys kick. And, you know, sure enough, he went to the right just as he has on his 5 previous attempts. And, you know, that's or right from the shooter, left from the keeper. That's the kind of analytics and metrics that goaltenders pay attention to. And, you know, the staff on the side is coaching him up, pointing the direction he's likely to go. And sure enough, he would have stopped that no matter what because it was just such a bad take. But one of those analytical points comes up again with Marmouche at the other end when he takes his penalty, which, again, it was another questionable one. I like it because it went our way. And it was certainly more appropriate, I think, than the one that went against us. But still another one where it just wasn't really clear which way it should go. But at least the referee was consistent with calls that weren't really making sense almost all day. But Marmouche went to his strong point on the lower left side, and Radetzky made a fantastic effort at that ball. But you see the difference between the two penalties. The quality of that Marmouche take was excellent. Then we were all feeling good, right?
Yeah, at that point we were. Not for very long, though.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Eintracht takes a lead, and what was that, around like 15, 16 minutes? It's funny that penalty happens in like the 14th, and then you got to have several minutes to work it all out. I like the momentum that you get after scoring on the penalty, but there's so much downtime in the reviews and everything. This game had a hard time finding a rhythm. There's a lot of physical play, a lot of whistles, and even though we had an early lead, there wasn't a lot of flow there. Even Leverkusen, who dominated possessions for large stretches early on, there wasn't a lot of flow to the match. And I think when we got ahead early, it would have been more beneficial if things did flow. But it got choppy. And then that Leverkusen goal to make it 1-1, Andrich with the finish. But my God, the movement that they displayed, I literally applauded. That was a fantastic goal. You love to see it. You hate when it's against your own side, though.
Right. And I think those things where it's like we've seen them do it to us over the years. We've seen the specific run of this team do it a lot. So it's just, it's in their bag. They can do it. It just, like you said, Chris, it just sucks when it's us that are the recipients of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just caught us standing still there. Tutu was the only one moving, and he kind of missed his opportunity to get the ball, and then boom, just perfect passing and an amazingly placed finish from Andrich. So it's hard to be super mad about that one, unfortunately.
Frankfurt's best offense this year has been generated with medium to long passes, not even over the top, but through balls and balls down the sideline. A lot of medium to longer range stuff. And I think we got a little caught up with the tic-tac-toe passing a few times in this one.
Mm-hmm.
It only bit us that once, but a couple times elsewhere where they just moved that ball so nice. One good thing I thought we did, I thought we contained Xhaka really well. Because he's, for my money, the best player in the Bundesliga. Maybe not, because we got Omar Marmoush, but he's the most electric player, I think. And he puts so many highlights up there. Every time he touches the ball, no matter where he is, he's a threat. I thought we did a good job containing him, but the rest of that group just moved the ball so well. And I don't really know if they even matched us on speed. I didn't look at that part of the analytics, but looking at the heat maps, they certainly moved around quite a bit more than we did. We stayed in our natural lanes, and I think we got caught watching quite a bit. That happens a lot against teams of higher caliber. I thought it was pretty obvious, John, that their talent level is leaps and bounds above where ours is.
Yeah, for sure. We knew that going into this game, that Leverkusen is the more talented side. They're definitely the better side. They're got an amazing coach. And but overall, especially in that first half, I thought we played pretty well. We didn't generate as many chances as I would have liked, but we held possession a lot more than, especially against Bayern. In the second half, that kind of declined a little bit, but I'm happy with that performance, especially in the first half. Just unfortunate that Ebembe was a little bit offside on what would have been Ekitike's goal. What a shot from him, but he was just a bit offside on that initial pass.
I think, Chris, how frustrated were we last season, both times with this Leverkusen game? Or you and I have watched that game in person together at Leverkusen when something mattered, and it wasn't the most embarrassing, but it was still worse than this. And I think anything, it's a good sign of maybe how far we've progressed. Like, Leverkusen were probably, especially in the second half as we get to, I think it just shows us that, hey, this place, this is a tough place, but we're willing to give it as much of a go as we can. We can try to take at least something from there, which I think is a step up from this fixture the last 4, 5, 6, 10 years at least.
That arena has been a house of horrors for us. It's never been easy, especially lately. I kind of had a good feeling going, but we got to give credit to Kevin Trapp before we get on him a little bit for some stuff in the second half. But, we question a lot, is it time to go to Santos, give the young kid a chance? Kevin Trapp reminded us that he's Kevin freaking Trapp, and we love him. he had an outstanding game, and I want to talk to you guys about that second goal from Leverkusen. As a former keeper myself, I look at that, and what was always taught to me is that if the ball's inside that small box or near it, a tender has to play it with his hands or leave it for his defender. When you're a keeper sticking your leg out in that situation, if the ball gets by you and your momentum is going away from the goal, there is no physical chance to recover. You cannot get back into position. And you saw that with him. He took a chance to stab the ball out with his foot. If he uses his arm and dives and pushes it forward or catches it or even makes the attempt to and gets hands on it, that ball doesn't get through.
I think
I can't put it entirely on him, but I feel like there's some communication issues between him and the defender. Was that Tuta in there, or who was the person in the box?
I think it was Tuta or Teod. But the thing is, on that shot that came in, it took a deflection off of Robin Koch's foot. And the way that Kevin Trapp was running out, he was kind of running out to catch it, not really punch it away. And as soon as it made that deflection, it went further than he was expecting. Now, yes, I think he should have been much more diving and going with his hands, but I think that deflection kind of caught him a little off guard, and that's why he stuck out his foot. Still not the greatest showing from him on that one, but
I think also we got to take account to it. He's been gone for a month.
Yeah,
and he was a shock to me being in the lineup. If anything, you've been rolling with Koa Santos hot enough that maybe you put Trapp in for Thursday for Europa. But he was in, and like I said, he made the penalty save. So in those moments, I can account like, hey, getting into the rhythm of that. But I also too, Leverkusen were going to get that second goal. The way they took that way that they were going the last 5, 10, 15 minutes before that goal. It may have already been 2-1 on another day, maybe even in there. So I think they were going to get it. It's just unfortunate that how it happened when it happened.
I think them on Wirtz really changed the game. If he was fully fit, I think we would have been in a lot more trouble because as soon as he came on, they were flowing a lot more. And I think he kind of got a little tired at the end, which is why his shot near the end that could have made it 3-1 wasn't quite as good as normally it would have been. But, yeah, a fully healthy Wirtz would have, I think, completely changed that game. And, I mean, him being, 75% already did.
And we couldn't get the ball rhythm going in the second half attacking-wise. We had that one moment out of the blue near the end was maybe Lucas Herdesky, forgetting what team he was playing on, like he was 2018 all over again for us.
I asked for it earlier in our game thread on Discord. I said, can he just give us that one gift of a bad goal allowed? That was a tradition when he was with Eintracht. We were always guaranteed to give up a bad goal. That ball gets beyond him, and I mean it bounced off the defender. And so again, one of those communication things where he needs to call off the player. And that player's got to lay on the ground or dive out of the way, whatever he's got to do. The keeper calls the shot.
He's a big boy, so
Yeah.
Ekatike, if he times that just a second later, it's 2-2.
I still think
that ball bounced extraordinarily high on him, even as a bigger guy. The momentum between him and the ball was not in the right spot. He was too far under it versus behind it. But it's one of those bounces. He gave it everything he had. And if he knew that player was so close on him too, maybe he could have played up the contact a little more. But
yeah.
I still think that shove from Taj should have been given as a pen. I mean, he fully pushed Ekatike away from the ball. I just don't see how that's not. Or at least give him a fucking red for
at least take a look at it.
Yeah,
I mean, for the other ones in the box that he took a look at and then decided to give the penalty, and that's where I think the official was a little going on his own I'm never wrong kind of philosophy, because both of those that he reviewed, the argument could go the other way against it. And then to not look at that one at such a critical juncture, even if it confirms that no, there wasn't enough contact or it was after the play on the ball, whatever the case is, at least confirm that. And that's, one thing that we have the luxury of in American sports is we get a referee to explain it. I know the Premier League's experimented with that now, where the referee gives an explanation. I would love to see the Bundesliga do that because I think that helps with the transparency a little bit. Is that something you guys would be for or against?
Yeah, absolutely. I think France is actually experimenting with that this year as well. I think at least, maybe not necessarily during the game, but at least after the game, they should absolutely have to. In the immediate after the game, not, after they've had some more time to think about, like right
after
after
a PR person writes a statement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If anything, I feel like what we see here when the match hit, maybe you take some of what we see in the NFL, is when a match hits a certain timeline, a certain threshold, that if there is something that is deemed questionable in that moment, because that whether it's Cologne or wherever they're watching in the Bundesliga, that's where it goes out of the referee's hands. If that committee sees something like, hey, you got to take a look at this. You want the head official to have the ability to have the say in the match as much as possible, but we also have now the ability and progression where has the ability for outside people seeing things, and in Germany, I think the Bundesliga VAR is a lot better than a lot of the VAR elsewhere in the world. I also think at that time it's like, hey, this is beyond you right now. You need to take a look at this. This goes to review, and and maybe in some cases that doing that will also bite us in the ass too, and this should benefit us. But in that moment, you're giving that situation the attention it deserves.
Yeah, if this was the Hey Leverkusen podcast, we'd be talking about how that wasn't even questionable. So, we're not. We are, as Brian would say, we're a little bit biased, right?
I'm right.
John, what are your final thoughts on this match?
As we said before this, as long as we come back from the break and put out a good performance at Leverkusen, no matter the result, that's a good sign for the rest of the season. And we came in and, yeah, it wasn't a great performance, but it was decent, much better performance than we've had there in recent history. So I'll take it. Would a draw have been nice? Yeah, it would have been great, but I'll take the performance.
I wanted fight. I wanted heart. We got fight. We got heart. We didn't embarrass ourselves. On to the next one. Good, Good fight. You'll get it later.
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the rest of the Bundesliga in the second part of the show, but losing by 1 goal on the road to the defending champs, who I still think have the quality to repeat. There's going to be a little more fight this year from Bayern, but I think they're still, in my mind, the front runners to repeat. Would you guys say that from what you've seen from Leverkusen to this point?
I still think a certain.
Not quite.
I think a certain team in the northeast of Germany might have the best chance right now.
I think Leverkusen are still, until they knock themselves out, are still front runners to me, but. I think, like John, although John's had him high up, I didn't have him high up in my predictions. That team in the Northeast that, makes shitty energy drinks, has a damn fine defensive record right now in the league. And with the attack that they have, puts them in any match.
But what they don't have is the championship pedigree, and that's what Leverkusen has right now, which, to your point, until they give it up, they're still the defending champs. And that's a powerful position to play from. But we'll talk about the rest of the Bundesliga after we take a little hydration break, guys. John, you were away at homecoming in Virginia this week. I'm sure you had a beverage or two, didn't you? What was John not drinking?
That by 100. I don't know. No, you know what? I had to hit up my favorite bar, the Greenleaf, down there, and had some local beer. Had the Tavern Brown Ale by Aleworks that's brewed in Williamsburg. Absolutely delicious. And then after that, probably had one too many Roman Cokes over the course of the night. But
nothing wrong with that one.
Okay, so are you Bacardi and Cokes, or are you Captain and Cokes, or are you...
Just rail, man. Just rail.
Oh shit! You're doing more than the foot.
No. I will say though, before I went over to the really shitty bar that everyone goes to for night, I had myself some Florida Cognac 12 year with the Coke, so that's always pretty good.
Good stuff. Garrett, what's been on your menu lately?
So Tuesday, last week, I got to see a fantastic concert at Masonic Detroit. Johnny Marr with the band James. Fantastic co-headline show. Had part of a hazy, that was my friend Andy Ridgway, who Chris knows well. His birthday that day. So this is his wife Andy bought his wife a beer that she wasn't supposed to have because she was driving. So I split part of that hazy. I think it was a Sierra Nevada hazy. I think that was there. But on Saturday, Chris, you talked about Detroit City making the playoffs earlier on that day. A fantastic day at Keyworth Stadium. Our goalkeeper comes out as a captain, comes out with his kids, and
scores a goal.
2-0 against a team that is even worse than VfL Bochum, which is saying something. Takes the penalty and kicks it and buries it, which I have to believe this is just going to be a swan song season in Nate Steinwasser. So to him, we say thank you. But during that game, Andy's had an extra Corktoberfest from Brew Detroit, which he handed to me, which
good.
That hit the spot in that moment, which probably is for me my first time having a drink at a Detroit City match in 3 years. So that type of, it was a great atmosphere for it.
Good way to cut into the sobriety. Like, you picked a good one.
Yeah. But he's like, fuck.
So I spent the weekend, I live in town here, but I spent the weekend over at the campus of Michigan State University for our homecoming activities. And I've reached an age now at 40 where when I go back to school, I'm no longer drinking what I drank at school, right? That's the benefit of experience, age, and money. You'll get there, John. When you're a few years older, you'll be like, no, I'm not going back to that nasty light, that Busch Light or whatever.
Worry, man, you were 40.
Busch Light was my beer of choice in my college days. I have graduated now to Old Nation, better known for their M43, but all weekend I was rocking the Old Nation Oktoberfest, which really Old Nation Brewing does not do a bad beer, period, at all. Anything they do. But it's the last weekend of Oktoberfest beers for me. I'm moving on to pumpkins, guys. I've got a whole list of pumpkin beers ready to go.
I've already been on pumpkin since last month.
I live on pumpkin. I had pumpkin spice shredded wheat for breakfast this morning. It's pumpkin season. What are you going to do? Now, I'm pretty sure when I get over to Europe, they're going to be like, we don't eat the pumpkin here. Like,
they probably serve pumpkin as a food thing, depending on what apple vine bar you go to when you're in town.
There you go. I'll find it. So yeah, that's enough of that segment. We'll move on to segment 2 here, where we're going to talk about the Bundesliga and what's coming up here in the next week. We'll roll right into it. Guys, match day 7 is in the books. I got one match here that I want to ask you guys about. Bayern 4, Stuttgart 0. Alarm bells going off in Stuttgart, right? Like, what the hell do they have to do? 2 draws and a loss in their last 3, and that's probably lucky on their part. It should be a lot worse. For what they've invested in that group, they're currently sitting 10th, and it's not looking very optimistic. I know Bayern's great, best team in the league so far to this point. I'm not buying Stuttgart. No fight whatsoever.
That game was kind of shocking to me. I unfortunately wasn't able to watch it, but it just looks like Bayern completely dominated that game from everything you see on the stat sheet. At least Stuttgart had been playing decently in some of those other games, but clearly just not ready for this one. And if they lose to Juventus, I think this week is their game in the Champions League, they're in a really, really hard spot to even make that last 8 that can move on to a qualifier. So
that sounds like a good roster to raid come January when we're gearing up for a deep Europa League run, and maybe one guy or 2 could put us over the top. This is a classic situation of someone that's going to be looking to shed money come January.
Yeah, and
I was going to say, to me, I saw the part of the first half of Bayern Stuttgart. And in the first half, Stuttgart, it was 0-0 at halftime. So it was one of those where Bayern had the ball. Stuttgart, you could see what Stuttgart was trying to do. Not so much the run two forwards directly at their two center backs, but use their guy tucked in behind them as like a 10 to like hold up and play. And for a little bit it was working, but then Bayern started to ramp up on that, and then they took over when I saw the highlights in the second half. I mean, Kane, he had some injury questions, definitely sat out the England-Greece match where England lost at Wembley during the international break, but came back and put a boot to Stuttgart's ass. He put 3, and Kingsley Coman with another goal. I mean, if you look at, and I think it's something to note when you look at all the Bayern talent in and out over the years, Kingsley Coman, somebody that's been a mainstay for that team, I think 10 seasons now, and they said that he has scored a goal now in each of his 10 seasons with Bayern Munich, which means that somebody's making his impact there. I think questions are to be asked about Stuttgart on there. Dortmund had to really work against St. Pauli, I thought. Guirassi's on form, but what would Dortmund be if he wasn't?
Yeah. No, Dortmund's definitely got their issues. I mean, we kind of knew that, especially their defense, I think. They've got good players back there, but they always just seem to be loose. I don't think that Emre Can is the defensive midfielder that they need as well. He's decent, but doesn't really always have it. Yeah, definitely some big questions about Dortmund.
It seems like it's becoming an annual tradition where Dortmund starts off really slow, and then around January, February, they pick it up and they're back fighting that 2-3 spot. But it's just one of those things where one of these years it's not going to catch on, and they're going to struggle to stay in Europe again. I think they have too much quality for that to happen this year. But again, we've seen it with other sides that also show promise and quality. But I think Dortmund is at a different level with that. And they have that unique ability to identify talent within. And it seems every year they end up with a homegrown guy that has some tear and does something that, helps salvage their Champions League numbers. But guys, let's talk about the table as a whole right now. You had mentioned, both of you, that FC Sugar Drink up there in Leipzig, they're looking really strong right now. This is insane. Through 7 weeks, 2 goals allowed in league play. That's nuts. Now, on the other side of that, though, they've only scored 11. So maybe that offense, once they slow down, who knows?
They've had plenty. And the thing about it, too, when you look at the Mainz game, if anyone checks out the highlights, Šeško had 2-3 moments at 2-0 up where he was one-on-one with the keeper and he point blanked it. So it's that point of like, probably for the rest of the league, it's good that they haven't fully clicked attacking wise, because if they were scoring a bunch of goals and on there, I think it'd be there. One thing I did also want to note on, we've already had the pleasure of winning on the road at this team's place. If I were a VfL Wolfsburg fan, I would not want to buy a ticket to go see your team at home because they have yet to still win it. Wolfsburg 2, Werder Bremen 4? I think I know there was a lot. Rob Hasenhüttl, manager with some pedigree. It's not working.
Decent roster too. Like, it's not bad. It's not anything amazing, but they shouldn't be, almost on relegation territory.
Yeah, they should certainly be above Mainz, who's just utter trash right now. And they always have been, but, a little more so in the quality right now.
New manager, their Mainz are showing some fight well above their talent.
Yeah, Bo Henriksen has them playing pretty well, just like Bo Svensson had when he first started. And then after that initial kind of run, they fell off. I think that could happen again under Henriksen. They should be safe to be in the Bundesliga, though, I think.
One thing that caught my eye this weekend was Gladbach over Hoffenheim. Hoffenheim had been quietly organized for a while there. Or, I'm sorry, Heidenheim.
Thinker of the week.
Gotcha. Heidenheim, they're trying to manage the busy schedule and all that, and we were curious how they were going to do that. But dropping 4 of the last 5 a lot of question marks there right now. After a pretty good start, there's a lot of question marks popping up there. And that's another one where I just think Europe might be a little bit too much for them to handle right now. We saw it last year with Union trying to handle Champions League, how that worked out. Now suddenly they've bounced back, and without too much chaos going on in their world, they're realigning and making a solid run at it. I think it's pretty clear now after 7 weeks, you're seeing the table split into thirds. That top seven, I'm going to leave Bremen out of it because there's a lot of question marks there. But from Dortmund on up, Dortmund, Frankfurt, Union, Leverkusen, Freiburg, Leipzig, and Bayern, that's a rock-solid top seven. And that's going to change a lot through the year unless Frankfurt decides to sit at 6 for 5 months like they did last year. But I wouldn't bet on that. I think those top seven are pretty secure. It's just going to work its way around. The bottom of the table, I think, is interesting. Augsburg, Hoffenheim, and Wolfsburg are all sitting on 7 points through 7 matches. And let's say of those three, Wolfsburg, Hoffenheim, and Augsburg, Garrett, which one is most likely to fall into the relegation zone?
Hoffenheim. I mean, when you look at the fact, yeah, they got the talent, but they're in a – John, you and I have talked about it extensively, I think, during our two-mans this year. Chris, we also have two smaller. That situation in Hoffenheim is, dare I say, even more fragile than Bochum right now. Bochum have maybe 1 point in the table after 11, but they're used to doing this shit, and they'll have the fan support week in, week out. Hoffenheim have their own pissed at them, in addition to being rocky, and not how sparsely filled was that place on Saturday. If they get into a bad run of form with that too, they could go down. It could be a landslide for them. Whereas I think Augsburg have enough fight and stubbornness. And what was the other team? You said Wolfsburg?
Yeah.
I think Wolfsburg have gone points away where they might they may get it right a little bit at home eventually, but they're going to be tough. They're a tough team to beat when they're coming into your barn. But I feel like Hoffenheim's the one that's most in trouble out of those three.
I don't think any of those three are going to be in that much danger. I do agree completely that Hoffenheim absolutely has the ability to just completely crumble. Bochum and Kiel, I don't see them getting out of those bottom two. Pauli has shown some fight in some games. They might be able to force their way up into 15th, and maybe like a Hoffenheim or an Augsburg falls into 16th. But to me, I'm not sure they quite have the quality to climb out of that. But that said, they got
the stubbornness to take teams on.
Yeah.
But you see where they're missing. You see where their naivety in their play, where it's been.
Yeah.
Yeah, they lack a quality to finish against a team that's better than them. They'll fight through it, but they're not going to score enough goals, I think, to come out ahead. All right, guys, we did enough looking back. It's time to look forward a little bit. We got 2 matches this week. Again, the Frauen are off. 2 matches here with the men's side. First off, Thursday, 12:45 Eastern time here in the States. 11:45 if you're in Kansas City. Trying to get out of work early to hit a bar there, Brian. Please do. We won't tell anybody. Your boss won't listen.
9:45
track Frankfurt
Northwest and the Bay.
Yeah. That's thank you for that. My math wouldn't have got that. Eintracht Frankfurt against FK RFS out of Riga, Latvia. My 3rd favorite city in all of Europe. I absolutely love Riga. Fantastic place to drink. Lots of beautiful waterfront on the Baltic Sea there. Just beautiful, beautiful country Latvia is. But that doesn't matter here. The unique situation for them, they finished first in the Latvian Higher League, which is a summer schedule based on, the climate up there. It's way the hell up north. So they played 33, 34, something like that matches in league play. And now during their off season, they play in the European competitions. So guys, the merits of that. I mean, we've played these teams before that play the flip schedule, and some adjust to it because they have more legs, they have more time to rest. Others, this is a sport of doing regular routines and getting into a flow of things. But then they're accustomed to playing in these tournaments too. They've been in Conference League, Europa League. They've played in Champions League qualifiers in the past. So is this a pro or con in any way, or are they just accustomed to it and we're going to face them?
I mean, they've been kicking around, qualifiers for a long time. I think they were in the group stage of the Conference League the past couple of years as well. That said, they haven't really performed well in them overall, but it's something they're accustomed to, and that could be an issue. But again, them playing away, it's a bit of, this is at home, right? Yeah.
It's at home. Yep.
That's a bit of a travel for them as well, though.
Yeah.
Well,
Garret?
Oh, go on.
No, I was just going to say, I know nothing about them other than how to drink through their hometown. I'm sure you know, like, their obscure third-string goalie or something.
So Latvia, to me, is known for I've known Latvia really for a few things. You know them for the three of us being hockey sickos. We knew of them for
Archer Zerbe,
which was the first time I knew anything about Latvia as a kid. The second one is the USSR version of Sherlock Holmes was filmed in Riga, Latvia, which I believe you could still catch some episodes on Amazon Prime. Great fucking Sherlock Holmes, for anyone.
Hold on. I'm going to let you finish. That is far more obscure than even naming their third string goalie. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hey,
continue.
We hadn't done fucked up stat time yet. Here's a fucked up stat time. And Chris, because you've talked about booze, there is John, we talked about this last week. Chris, you probably had it, that there's something in Latvia, a stronger than Jaeger drink known as Black Balsam, which is very,
yes.
I got that gifted to me as a Christmas gift years ago. It's good, but there's a lot of bite. So you have to deal with some shit to go through in Latvia and everything and the weather and all that. But I also remember what happened to Hoyaku Helsinki when they came to Frankfurt last year. We're wearing Nathan's favorite kits ever, the Hanes White Tee kits. And I think our boys are going to be pissed off from Leverkusen. I'm not going to say 6-0. Oh, apparently when I stick my hand like this is thumb sign. Well done, Skype. 3-0.
What if we do other gestures? How does that work?
I don't know. Do you want to try that? 3-0. I'm going to go Marmush because he can't stop scoring. Dina because Dina Mbembe because he loves Europa League. And fuck else is going to score? Give me Larson.
No goalie goals?
No.
Save those for Detroit.
Save them for USL Championship.
John, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that we should be able to win this game. I will say, impressive by RFS in their last game to get a 2-2 draw against a really good Galatasaray side. They went 2-0 down, came back through. That was at home for them. And in their first game away, they lost to FCSB of Romania 4-1. I think we win this game 3-1. I think Dina Bembe played amazing on Saturday. He's been on a heater. I could definitely see him scoring in this one. Marmouche has to score, right? He just can't stop. And then I think Ekatike is going to be hungry for it after getting that one chopped off for offside and then just barely not being able to put the tying goal in at the end. I think he can grab one.
Yep. I had 3-0 written down, but I'm going to change only because you mentioned Marmouche can't stop scoring, and that's got to continue. I had 2 for Ekatike, 1 for Abimbe, but I'm going to have to add 1 for Marmouche. I'm going to go with a 4-0 clean sheet. I wouldn't be surprised if we give one up because I'm not allowed to pick clean sheets on this show. Bad shit happens. But honestly, I think equality is there. And even as we talked about against Leverkusen, we were just outmatched by a better side. We didn't play horrible. So our form is still quality, I think, and we're gonna show that. It's still way too early in this expanded Europa League to talk about the table too much. But through 2 matches, we're sitting 7th out of 8, and there's goal differentials and tiebreakers and things like that going on. But the top 24 out of the 30-16 table will go on. You want to be in the top 8, so you don't have to play even more matches in a really crazy Europa League schedule. But guys, just real quick, I want to ask, I kind of like this. I wasn't sure I was going to like going away from the group aspect in Europe, but I do like this new setup because we're seeing different teams that we don't have to do a home and away. We're going to do 4 home and 4 away, but it's a more random mix of teams. Do you guys like this? It's a little more to keep track of, but I think it's a little more unique too.
I think it's okay. I'm not fully sold on it yet. I think that this format is a little more forgiving to like your bigger sides, whereas if in the group stages, if a smaller team was able to nick out a couple wins out of nowhere, they could at least finish third and do the drop down or something like that. Very glad they got rid of the drop down. That was stupid to begin with.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I think that what you'll see for the most part is the teams you don't expect to make it through are not going to. The question is going to be who's in that lower part of the top 8 and the upper part of the next 8, because that is a big advantage to be top 8, move forward, don't have to play another 2 matches after playing 8 already. I think if we get a win in this one, we're in a very good position to get in top 8. Obviously, our away matches later on are going to be very interesting, but it'll be a good position if we can get a win, especially if we get a win with a handful of goals.
Garret, any thoughts on the format?
I think there's a little bit more room for us as a squad to breathe with the table format right now. I think it'll be really, really interesting to see where we're at when we really start getting into the heavy fixtures of this. When we got Lyon, when we got Roma, and then everything there. If that's going to cause any issues at that point where we're at with Pokal as well. So I think so far it's benefited us, but I think we know we have the opportunities that we have to strike in our moments. Yeah. So we had a slip up in match day 1 at home, but I think we canceled that out with the win in Istanbul, so against Besiktas. So now it's like you got to keep your rhythm going. So I think we have a deeper squad that can handle Europe this year as opposed to last year. So I think that benefits us as a whole too. So hopefully it continues to be onward and upward.
I agree. So the turnaround here, of course, playing on Thursday in Europa League means we get the Sunday matchup in the Bundesliga, and this one is on the road at Union Berlin. Start time on that 12:30 p.m. here on the East Coast of the United States, 18:30 in Central Europe. Gentlemen, we talked about Union Berlin bouncing back stronger than last year's start, more focused, more even keel right now. Can't use even keel anymore. That doesn't work with Kiel in the league. But Union sitting 5th in the table right now, 1 point ahead of Frankfurt. There is a lot on the line here, not just with that 5 spot, but also reaching for the 4 spot, depending what happens elsewhere. How optimistic are we? On the road, short turnaround. If we didn't have Europa League on Thursday, I'd feel a little bit better about what's happening on the weekend. But I got to see how we come out Thursday before I start getting too excited about Sunday, right?
Yeah, and Union Berlin, we talked about Leipzig's defense earlier, obviously the best in the league. Union Berlin is right there with them, only 4 goals allowed so far this season. They are a tough team to score against. Now, I think we've got the attackers to do it, but it's definitely not going to be an easy match. And hopefully we don't tire ourselves out too much on Thursday. And quite frankly, I don't know, it depends on, do you want to focus on really getting through in Europa League? Do you want to focus on trying to get Champions League in the league? And if we really want to get Champions League, I think the route is the league, and we should set our lineups accordingly to that, and we should at least somewhat rest players and then be ready for Sunday. I think it's a big match, and it can really be a table turner for us.
Yeah, that first half is critical Thursday. If we can get just 2 goals ahead and move a few bodies off in a single substitution window, move 3 guys off to start the second half. I mean, we have the quality to hold them at bay. I'm not too worried about that, but it all comes out to getting off to a good start. Garret, assuming we win on Thursday, because we know Brian loves assuming victories and counting those ahead of time, so I'm just going to do it anyway on his behalf here. Assuming that we pull off a victory on Thursday, what kind of roster are you looking for on Sunday? Are we coming all guns blazing, or do we have to modify things a little bit because it's going to be a busy end of October here?
My guess is we're going to see Hugo Matanovic on Thursday.
Igor.
Hopefully. And then you can roll.
Starting?
Yeah, I think you start him.
Yeah.
And then that allows you to sit one of Marmish and Ekatike unless you put Marmish out on the left. And then you really want to have a good time. But I think you could start Marmish Ekatike on Sunday, provided Ekatike is not on minutes or any rest or anything like that. Mario Götze's starts one of these two. Which one do you start him in? Dahoud, Scary. So I think you figure out there's going to be some changes, some movement. I feel like Fun Bose. How much Union's got? What, the second best defensive record in this league right now?
Yep.
Where are they at? 4 goals allowed, 3 goals. So, but look at the teams that they've played so far. I'm not saying. I mean, yeah, they beat Dortmund at home. They gave up one to Dortmund, but they were at Kiel on these things there. So, have they dealt with? How often have they dealt with pace up front in attack with their defense and transition movement, everything like that? This might be something that could be a good matchup for us. Is it going to be difficult? Yes, because we have to be smart. We can't make dumb plays. Head on swivel type thing. We're going to give up one, but we're going to score 2. So 1 Union Berlin, 1 Eintracht Frankfurt 2. Marmish.
That wasn't very convincing.
All 2. My brain's scattered right now. Marmish because Death Texas, Marmish scoring goals. And we're in league play, so Arthur Teot.
I like it.
Okay. Bold. John?
So I liked your point about Igor Matanovic. I think that RFS would be a great game for him to start in. I think it's a game where we're going to be having most of the possession and be able to service him. I would love to see that. Union Berlin could be a game that he features in as well. I'll probably be watching this game with some Union fans in DC, so would love to get a victory here. It'll be tough. I'll go with a 1-1 draw. I think we'll get a goal against them. Can never pick a clean sheet, but I know they haven't faced the best opponents this year, but they have had just such a good defense. I would love for us to break it down and show me wrong, but yeah, I'll go with 1-1, and I'll give me Ekatike.
As I'm going to disagree with you. I think they have played decent opponents. They beat Dortmund on the road, and they tied Leipzig.
That's true.
I mean,
that's Berlin, yeah.
Not only did they tie Leipzig, they held them scoreless, and that's kind of hard to do right now with the attack. Leipzig hasn't scored a ton, but the balance sheet is entirely in their favor. So to keep them scoreless, you got shut down yourself. But I think this is a very good Union Berlin team. That's a tough stadium to go into. Small as it may be, it's louder than Hoffenheim at only a third of the size. So, it's one of those situations where we're not afraid to play there. We've done it a lot recently, but I think it's going to be a little bit tough. The result Thursday, the emotional hangover, I actually like this a little more going on the road than coming home. Because if we played home in Europa League on Thursday and then try to get that same energy going on Sunday, it would never happen. We would fall short. But I do think we can do it on the weekend. I can't exactly pull for a victory yet without knowing what's going Thursday. So I'm going to go with a 1-1 draw right now, with a caveat that I can log on to Skype and record a video and say that I'm upgrading it to a victory at some point. But right now I'm going to say it's going to be a 1-1 draw. And I actually like Hugo Larsson on the weekend. I think he's getting more comfortable the more he plays, the more minutes he gets under him. And he's shown the ability to use his speed a little more, not in the sense that positionally it's different than what what's his name? Guy in the red jersey, Jesper Lindstrom did. He has that same explosive kind of speed where he can be creative at full speed, but positionally he doesn't have that much room to do it with. So I kind of like seeing him combine with Ekitike or Marmouche to be creative. But I think Hugo Larsson breaks through on the weekend. So yeah, guys, we got a lot to talk about. I'm going to be out for a couple weeks. I'm going to Europe, but I might check in. I might log in at 4 a.m. and chat with you guys because it's fun. It's what we do, right?
So yeah, we have one producer, Nathan, back later on this week. Do we know? Just because I know this will be another video only episode for the meet right now. Audio to come.
Yeah, we'll see
At a later time.
We'll see. We'll get him to put it on Spotify.
Yeah. Are you in Europe before Thursday? Or are you in Europe starting Thursday? Just for
I'll be here. I'll be here all weekend.
Cool. So we got, at least we can talk about it for sure Thursday. Adler.
Yep, we'll be on here Thursday night recapping what happened. Maybe afternoon. We'll see how you guys are doing work-wise. But I'm going to be in Detroit Thursday. Maybe we can pull some Europa League stuff up. But anyway, yeah. Garret, where can we find you on social media?
All right. Start off with the personals. Twitter, Instagram, Discord at GM Comats. Eintracht Frankfurt Detroit at Detroit SGE. And now, because as Chris, we've mentioned it multiple times today, it's Detroit City playoff season. So with that, promoting the content. Majors Detroit at TMSNX Detroit on Twitter, Detroit.themajorsports.com at the Majors TV, channel 451 on YouTube, and at 451 DET. How's that for quickness?
Very efficient. John, can you beat his time?
Yeah, probably. Sorry, I just looked up and Derrick Henry breaks to an 80-yard fucking run. God damn, that dude.
Saw that. You're toast.
I mean, whatever. I'd rather the Ravens win that game, I guess. Yeah, Twitter, Ben_JBen, and Instagram, JohnBen33.
And you can find me at C and the D 313 on Peloton, X, Twitter, other things, Instagram at Chris N. Monroe. And of course the show, halfpod.com, Instagram at Hey Eintracht Frankfurt, and x.com/HEF pod. Guys, it was fun. We're going to do it again later this week, next week, and all the weeks coming up. And subscribe on YouTube, please. We would love to start doing these live and archive them there, but we cannot do that without subscriptions. So follow, subscribe, share, all those fun things that more polished people say in the business. We really appreciate everybody listening and interacting with us on all our platforms. Come on over to Discord. We have a fun time on there chatting all things Eintracht and alcohol and food and other things like that. So, yeah. So we talk to you later this week. Cheers. That is far more obscure than even naming their third string goalie.
Hey, Eintracht Frankfurt, la 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 la. Hey, Eintracht Frankfurt, la 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 la.